We are in the Nanaimo Museum, and this store was originally a fashion store from 1887. But they sell different things like tea, coffee, and it reminds me a little bit to the old stores in Amsterdam of the 50s, my youth. And then you really get the feeling, oh, I'm getting old. But it's so sweet to look at. Many times I walk by this beautiful little tower. And now, finally, for this program, we are able to take a look inside. I'm so excited about this. Let's go for it. We finally made it, the Bastion. And of course, it's raining, like in Holland. I almost feel at home. We are on the second floor of the Nanaimo Bastion. This small fortification was set up by the Hudson Bay Company to defend the mining activities here in Nanaimo. But after all, it was not really necessary. This was such a peaceful community. On a misty morning in the year 1855, there was panic all over the place. A huge band of native warriors came paddling into the harbor. So the residents flew to the upper floor, the cannons were loaded, the muskets were aimed, and the shutters were opened, of course, to blow them out of the water. But nothing happened. The natives were friendly and just came to say hello and do some trading in furs and so on. Panic for nothing.
If I see all those barrels, once filled with gunpowder, needed only one burning cannonball of a passing pirate ship, and the Bastion would be on its way to the moon. Lucky enough, this never happened.
Just as we walked out the Bastion, it started to rain cats and dogs. So I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm here safe and well, back in my studio, and behind me is my green screen, but it works. We took some nice photographs because this is going to be our next topic, the beautiful Tower of the Bastion. So let's create a masterpiece. Hello and welcome in the studio. I already made a sketch in light gray of the Bastion, and that was necessary because this is a highly complicated mathematical structure with lots of vanishing points on the horizon, and it saved us 2.5 hours of painting already. Our special guest of today is Jacob Ruisdael, and he is a true mystery guy. The poor fellow had no clue how old he was. Probably he was born in the year 1628, but it's a guess. And that happened in these days. Even worse, it's a portrait, but nobody is sure if it's really his portrait. He never made self-portraits like Rembrandt did. So that's a mystery too, how he looked like. But one thing is for sure, he was the true master of light and dark. I am really excited to make this painting. At work.
As always, we start with the first layer on the horizon, and this time with a very light gray. I use a big filbert brush, and the higher I go, the darker the background, and watch my technique. I do criss-cross strokes. In this way you already get some movement in the sky. Now we want to do this painting in the style of Jacob van Ruisdael. Well, he didn't like the glow on the horizon as we always do, so we have to obey the master so we don't do it. As you can see, we had to speed up the movie, otherwise it would take too much time and you will get bored, or worse, fall asleep. With a bit of Taylor blue, we can create the heart of the storm. Make it kind of diagonal and let it cross the upper part of the tower. And then with some dark gray, we can create the first dark cloud. Look what I do. I push the paint into the wet underlayer. But first, let's take a look at the technique of Jacob van Ruisdael.
This painting of Jacob van Ruisdael is one of the most famous paintings he ever made. Look how he painted the dark clouds and also the sparkling light behind it, or in front of it. It's almost frightening. And take a good look at the windmill. The windmill is certainly taking the light, but in the back he painted an extra dark cloud. So the windmill comes loose from the background and it's almost stepping out of the painting. What a great technique. We will do the same technique as Jacob. A dark cloud at the light left side of the tower, and look at that. The tower is already coming forward. With a bit of highlight, we can paint a light cloud right in front of the dark cloud. And I did it for a reason. The light clouds are aiming to the bastion, just to lead the eye of the viewer to the tower. There are always mountains in BC. And they are, of course, all in the distance. And that makes a painter happy. It gives such an extra dimension at your painting. And there's always a low-hanging mist too, right before the mountains. This will make them a bit mysterious. And on top, there's a bit of snow. That will finish it beautiful. Don't go too precise, it's all far, far away. Let's paint some more highlights here and there. And of course some more heavy, heavy thunderclouds. It almost looked like the Sunday we were filming over there. Dark, dark clouds and loads of rain. Not ideal when you walk around with a camera trying to catch all the interesting spots over there. But as Dutchmen, we are used to loads of rain and wind, so no worries. And I really can imagine that the first colonists were so very afraid all alone on this deserted outpost. Far from home, hardly any connections with the home front. In this time of internet, telephone and so on, we can hardly imagine how it was in those days of the 1850s. I was reading about the history of this tower. On the first floor there was an office for Joseph William Mackay of the Hudson Bay Company. He conducted the day-by-day operations. He did the management of the mines, the supplies and storing goods, of course. The correspondence with Fort Victoria were carried by small, fast canoes. Can you imagine that? It took days and days and days before your letter or message reached the destination. Jacob never became very rich with painting, but he was not really poor also. There were no crazy ups and downs in his life like Rembrandt had, but he lived a very steady life. And even when he passed away in 1682, there was a bank account of 2,000 Dutch guilders, which would be now around $200,000 maybe. In 1656, he moved to Amsterdam, to the famous Kalverstraat. He and the most famous painters of Amsterdam got the assignment to decorate the new City Hall of Amsterdam. And that was quite an honor. Of course, we are still working on the Ruisdael sky. The best that we can do
is work with the highlight and then close the edges of the painting with dark clouds. Here I painted a big field of light clouds and they are all pointing to the roof of the bastion. Then, with a light or with a dark gray, we can make a kind of frame on the right side of the painting. This is how we give the spectator the feeling that he or she is looking into the painting. It's a wonderful wet and wet technique, as the colors almost melt into each other. Not easy, but lucky enough, oil paint is very forgiving. If you make a mistake, no big deal, just paint over it and nobody will see it. And we in Holland, did we have towers like this to defend the country? Well, certainly. Let's take a look in the south of Holland in the city of Valkenburg. In the south end of Holland, we visit the romantic city of Valkenburg. The first tower was built in the 11th century and there is still a lot to see, as the defending towers were archers aimed at the enemies. The castle has a violent history and ruled over the city below the walls. Here you can walk over the so-called Dwingle. It forced the visitors to walk up the hill at the living tower. But if the king didn't like the visitor, it was easy to shoot them or throw them in a dungeon. Yes, life was easy in those days. Violent too, no question about that. The Bastion has a more peaceful history, lucky enough. Before we continue the tower, let's put up some greenery in front of it. And as we go back in time, at least 100 years, we don't want a highway, but probably there was a dusty road right in front of it. It's hard to tell, because the tower was replaced at least 2 times and almost demolished. But as the community paid $175, it was saved. How cool was that? And here I add a little bit more ochre and some crimson and white, just to make it a bit more sandy. And I know what you want to say, Michael, it looks like nothing. Yes, indeed. We're just covering the black spaces, but I promise you it will be good, no worries. Let's first finish the top. The most trickiest part is always a thin flagpole. But lucky for us, there is the palette stick. Look how handy. The brush slides along the stick. And this is how you create a straight pole. We use the dark gray first and give it some light with light gray on the left side and blend it in a bit. We do the same with the cover. The dark side on the right side and the left side is the light. Don't forget that. Now, first I do some outlining and then I filled it up with dark gray and a bit of burnt sienna. We skip it a bit to save some time, but if you've seen one plate, you know everything. And of course, the Bastion looks neat and clean, but we painters like it old and worn out. On the edges, we will do some highlights on the right side, some more shadow. And don't forget to fade it in a bit to make it all nice and round. As you can see, my hand is leaning on my palette stick just to bring the hand at ease. And look how nice and round it looks. We can paint a bit more moss on the roof. The museum is probably gonna kill me, but again, we painters like it old, romantic and worn out. So use a bit of green earth mixed with some light green, and looks how nice worn out it is now. Of course, in reality, the building is in top condition. So we can all enjoy the Bastion for the coming years. On the right side, we will start with painting the shadows. We can use a middle tone grey with a bit of burnt sienna in it for the wood color effect. And I hear you thinking, Michael, what a slave work. All those blanks, this will take forever. Yes, I know. And of course it would be easy to paint the whole plate grey and draw a few lines for the blanks. But this is the way how Dutch masters constructed brushstrokes and textures into their objects. It is proven that painters as Ruisdael painted their houses and structures this way. Patience is the most important issue. Of course, painters in the 1600s had all the time in the world, although that is what we think. In reality, their time was limited. In wintertime especially, you could paint till 4 o'clock. Here on the left side of the planks, I paint a bit of ochre, alizarin crimson and white just to give it a kind of shine. Up here, I paint a loophole so we can observe the enemy who was almost not there, as history learns. Here I do it again. On the left side, a bit of that ochre tone, and look how great it shines. Down below, the sun is catching there the planks, so we use a bit of highlight. And I'm not too precise. I want the planks look old and weary, or as we say in Europe, romantic. Let's give the planks a bit more shadow, just with some dark grey. And then we have to paint the shutters. The openings and shutters were constructed like the ships in those days. Simple but effective, and the color on the average was black tear. Let's take a little break and visit the Wildlife Recovery Center.
We are in the North Island Wildlife Recovery Center and we are visiting Sander, the big bald eagle. I once made a nice painting of him and he seems to be in a very good mood this time.
Yes, Sander was looking happy. A year ago he was a bit depressed, but he was showing off as always, looking at us and even made contact with a friend high in the sky. He's always fun to watch. And Ray, she is doing great. She has garden duty, cleaning up the weeds and doing a great job, while Uncle Knut is taking a nap, snoring like a sawmill. And in the monitor we look in the baby room, and there is the newfound baby taking a nap. Isn't he cute? It's always nice walking around here. The mood is good, the ducks are happy, and you even can find all my artwork here, like these little cuties. As you might know, I love to donate artwork to the center. To keep a bear alive, it costs the center $40 a day per bear, so we appreciate your support. And we have to continue with the Bastion. Under the roof, we can do some reflections with light ochre. If the sun is catching all those light tones, you absolutely will get a reflection, even in the dark. I use a small round brush, and again I lean on my stick. With some dark gray, we can give all the planks a bit more dark, steady effect. When we paint the shutters, always think at the perspective. This little tower has a lot of perspective lines, vanishing points. It's even worse than a Dutch windmill. Too much mathematics for me. But with a little knowledge of perspective, you will get a professional result. Even I can do it. Yes, I said that. Even I can do it. On high school, my math teacher got desperate with me. And he told me, Michael, maths will never work for you. And I was standing right in front of him with trembling knees, 13 years old, and I said with all the courage in me, "Yes, but I can paint, and that is something you cannot." And his answer cost me 2 weeks detention, but it was worthwhile to do it. I never regretted that. Yeah, mathematics. Well, here we are, busy to make the shadow part under the upper tower a bit darker. I added some yellow ochre to the gray mix and I roughly set it up over the gray underlayer. That is a big advantage of drawing a steady underpainting. Never think, oh, it will come later. No, it won't. If your basic drawing is weak, it will become from bad to worse. In the meantime, I painted some reflections on the left side of the planks with a light tone of yellow ochre. On the light side of the tower, we can add a strong highlight. By now, you know how to mix that. If I may advise you, I follow the direction of the planks, as always. Don't fill it in like a steady log, just go lightly over it. This will result in a very nice, rough structure. Before we go further, we have to do the steps. That's really important, otherwise we cannot climb to the first floor. We can set it up with some dark gray, and with the help of the stick, it's an easy peasy. See how I do it. I let the metal of the brush slide along the stick. Of course, there's a certain perspective in the stair, so just a bit and we better do it. Then with a small brush we can paint the steps one by one. The steps underneath are a bit darker, and it doesn't have to be that very straight. After all, it's a romantic painting. We let it dry for a while and later we can put up some more highlights. And speaking about highlights, we have to put some more highlights on this side too, of course. It's quite a work, but we have to do it, and we have a great result. Yes, I know, we have to be patient. You might know I am a strong supporter of the North Island Wildlife Recovery Center in Coombs, and here I show my friends my latest framed paintings I made for a show. I will donate all the paintings made for painting the island to the Wildlife Center, and I hope it will help a bit to support the recovery for all the animals. My sweet wife Els will donate a line of special handmade cards to the center as well. Of course, you always can come by in our beautiful new lesson center at 114 Hearst Avenue in Parksville, right in between the Parks West Stationers and Island Cycle. Els will be pleased to show you how to create beautiful flowers. We organize great workshops in a relaxing atmosphere. We think that the fun part is the most important part of scrapbooking. You can find every issue for scrapbooking, as we have lots of stuff of heartfelt creations. You will understand that we are so proud of our new great lesson center. We offer great painting sessions, and in a relaxing way you will learn the secrets of the Dutch masters, and I will be happy to show you my newest paintings. Now let's paint some foliage around the tower. With a fan brush and some earth green, I start with the dark tones. Look at my technique. I wiggle and wiggle my wrist, and right away we have a cool result. It might be handy to practice this movement a bit on a piece of oil paper before you do the real thing. And of course, we need to add a nice mid-tone, a little bit lighter green also, just a bit. And then some more light on the bush will make it more three-dimensional. Right in the front we do the same trick. Here I skip a bit to save some time, but you will get the idea. Of course, you will understand that around a military building never ever have been any bushes of trees. One burning arrow or a cannonball could set the whole thing on fire. And all the shooters, the musketeers, need a free field shooting, of course. But as painters we are romantics, and if we like it, we just do it, military or not. If you have painted with me before, you know I like reflections. So let's paint a little water ripple right in the middle of the wheel tracks. It's so easy. Just a bit of light gray, just a bit of highlight, some dark reflection for the tree, and just fade it in softly with a clean brush. And of course we need the famous water ripple. Nothing special, just almost no pressure on it, and the knife will do the rest for you with a little bit of highlight. We're almost done. I always paint a bit of extra foliage in the foreground. This will give you once more the impression that we are looking into the painting. Let's paint some weeds in the distance. Just push it in with the fan brush. That's such an ideal brush. Shame, 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 I almost forgot the shutters. Those guys hang on a kind of hook. So start with some dark gray and upon that a light tone gray, just to make it round, and use a small round brush. Easy as that. Back to the foreground, we can add some more little twiggies and whatever. You got all the time in the world, and for us the time is up. I think the painting is done.
We finally made it. The Bastion in Nanaimo with a Ruisdael sky above it. How cute is that? I think Ruisdael will be happy with us. And above all, we painted it like it was 100 years ago. No traffic lights, no telephone poles, just nice in the middle of nature. And that's what we like. You will find the whole episode also on our website. Thank you for watching and keep on painting.